Good evening, everybody. We'll go ahead and get this meeting started for Thursday, January 25th, 2018, Sacramento Metro Fire Board meeting. I'd like to call this meeting to order and start with the pledge to the flag. Director Clark, would you please?
Yes, sir. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Director Clark. The open session meeting is videotaped for cablecast on Metro Cable 14 replay on Monday, January 29th, 2018 at 6 p.m. and Tuesday, January 30th, 2018 at 2 p.m. on Channel 14. Webcast at www.sacmetrocable.tv. The open session meetings are also available for viewing on the district's website at www.metrofire.ca.gov. Now is the opportunity for public matters. If there is someone here that would like to discuss something that is on or not on the agenda. Madam Clerk, do we have any public speakers?
There are no speakers this evening.
Thank you very much. Moving on to the consent items. Are there any questions or comments?
Mr. Chairman, I move approval of the consent agenda.
Second.
Thank you. First and second, Madam Clerk.
Director Gould.
Aye.
Orzali.
Aye.
Sheets.
Aye.
Clark.
Aye.
Kelly.
Aye.
And Barnes.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you very much. Moving on to presentation items, fiscal year 2016-17 annual reports. Thank you very much.
Good evening, directors, chiefs. My name is Ron M. Pedrad, controller for the district, and we're here to submit to you the district's comprehensive annual financial report for the fiscal year ended June 30, 2017. This report has also been submitted to GFOA for its consideration of its Excellence for Financial Reporting Award. The report has been audited by our financial statement auditors, Richardson and Company, which also perform a single audit of the district's management and use of federal funds. Here to discuss the results of that audit is Ingrid Shapeline, Managing Director of Richardson and Company.
Thank you. Good evening. Ingrid. I'm here today to present the results of the 2017 audit. And to start with, let's see if I can get there. The reports that we issued that I believe are in your package include the audit opinion on the financial statements, governance letter, as well as report on internal control and compliance. And I'm going to touch on the highlights of these. If you have questions as I go along, please feel free to jump in. Appropriations limit report was issued as well. So audit results, we had a clean opinion on the financial statements. That indicates that the financial statements are fairly presented in accordance with governmental accounting principles. The audit was very clean. The accounting records are kept in good condition, so we only had one adjustment as a result of our audit. We also look at the district's internal controls and determine that the internal controls are good and good processes are in place. Significant adjustments. The district completed its closing process of the books before we arrived, so that made for a very smooth audit process. As I mentioned, there was just one adjustment. It had to do with the change in how the district is crediting the employee vacation at the beginning of the calendar year. However, at June 30, not all of that vacation was used. So there was an entry that was needed to basically back out the unearned vacation as of June 30th. For accounting purposes only, the employees are credited at the beginning of the year, beginning of the calendar year for vacation. So that hasn't changed, just the accounting and the accrual has changed. And there were no differences that we noted that we did not adjust for. So overall, the records are clean. I think Ron does an excellent job of maintaining the books on the accrual basis of accounting. So over the years, we've seen significant improvement in the finance department and their closing entries and closing process. So it makes for a very clean audit. I'm just going to touch on some of the highlights in the financial statements, not go over them in any detail. First highlight is property tax revenue. There was a $6.5 million increase in property tax revenue during the year. This is also higher than what was originally budgeted. Even based on the revised budget, the actual is about $800,000 more than the revised budget. Charges for services, which include medic billings, inspection fees, and deployment reimbursements, that category of revenue increased by $10.8 million. There's really three components to that change. One of them being the Intergovernmental Transfer Program, which is a form of reimbursement for Medi-Cal patients. That revenue increased $8.6 million. And there was also an increase in deployments, revenue reimbursement about $800,000, and then plan review fees actually increased about $400,000. Salaries and benefits increased by $44.9 million, and that's mostly in the area of pensions. There was about a $34.1 million of that $44 million increase had to do with the pension liability accrual entries, primarily an additional year of interest on that liability. Also, OPEB benefits resulted in an increase of 2.5 out of that $44 million. And then also there was a pretty large increase in the workers' comp costs during the year, about 1.6 million out of that 44 million. The services and supplies expense category increased by 7.5 million. Most of that is related to that intergovernmental transfer program. It shows up as both revenue and expense, where the district sends funds to the state, and then what they receive back is a higher amount. So out of that 7.5 million, about 5.7 of that is for that program. Another 1.4 million was increased due to additional equipment that was added to the new engines purchased during the year. And about 1.2 million out of that 7.5 million is due to hiring an ambulance contractor to keep up with the increased demand. So overall, if you look at your general fund within the district's financial statements, revenues exceeded the expenses by about 2.5 million during the year. Then the net pension liability on the balance sheet increased from 324 million up to 400 million. Continue to see that increase occurring really statewide, and is just a function of the in the presentation that was done earlier, as far as the actuarial assumptions really not keeping up with what's really happening in the market. Because of those pension liabilities and OPEB liabilities, you have an unrestricted deficit of 433 million. Most of that being the pension liability, which makes up about 400 million, and then your OPEB liabilities also are contributing to a net deficit of your net position. However, down the road is PEPRA over time will hopefully slow down that increase that you're seeing because of the change in the benefit structure for employees hired after 2013. This is a snapshot of the equity section of your balance sheet. It just shows some of the numbers that I was mentioning. So the components of your equity or net position, you can see 70 million of it is basically tied up in your infrastructure. It's not spendable. You have some restricted resources, about 5.9 million, most of that being restricted for capital projects such as impact fees and other grant funding. And so then you can see then the unrestricted negative or deficit of 433 million that I was mentioning earlier. This table is a snapshot of your long-term liabilities, and the purpose here is just to illustrate the net pension and your other liabilities. You can see, as I mentioned earlier, the net pension liability of about 400 million. That was an increase from last year's number by 75 million. You have pension bonds that you're paying down that have an outstanding balance of 63 million. And your OPEB liability is at 56 million. That increased about 3 million during the year. And then your various other liabilities. As I mentioned earlier, the district has good internal controls, so the report on internal control is a clean report. We also audited for the district's compliance with federal grant requirements. There was $3 million of federal grant funding that was received during the year. The program that we tested this year as a major program was the Staffing for Adequate Fire and Emergency Response Program, which is salaries of additional firefighters. And our conclusion in that report is that the district complied with the federal requirements governing that grant funding. New pronouncement that's discussed in the financial statements is GASB 75, which relates to the OPEB. And we've been talking about this for a few years now, but it's really going to happen this fiscal year, 2018. So what's going to happen is that what you currently have recorded as an OPEB liability is going to increase substantially. Based on the current actuarial valuation, there would be about another $150 million of liabilities that would be adding to your balance sheet. So we saw that negative $433 million. Well, that's going to increase by another $150 million because the full amount of your pension liability will be required to show up on your financial statements that hasn't been in the past. So the accounting is going to be similar to what it is now for the pensions. So as I mentioned, based on the July 2015 valuation, your full liability is $213 million. What you have recorded currently is about $57 million. The district will need to undergo another actuarial valuation to determine the amount that it needs to accrue for June 30, 2018. And so with the next financial statement of the fiscal year we're in right now, 17-18 is when that liability will need to be recorded. So I'll open up to any questions or areas of clarification.
Thank you very much. Any questions or comments from the board? No, thank you very much. Appreciate it. Okay, moving on to reports, President's report. I have nothing for this evening. Fire Chief's report. I noticed Chief Harms's hairline has receded a little bit.
Hey now.
Acting Chief Bridge, thank you very much for being here tonight, sir.
You're welcome. I've been working on that. That's good. Special barber. Okay. Covering for Chief Harms tonight as he is with Chief Shannon. They're back at a Special Unified Fire Authorities Fire District roundtable meeting where they're discussing items related specifically to fire districts. So he'll be out, and I'll be your point of contact for the weekend. Some reassignments I'd like to announce is firefighter paramedic Phil Hart has been reassigned to the EMS day position effective January 15th. Also effective coming up on the 8th, Captain Kylie Keeley will be assuming the EMS 24 position in overseeing the C shift. We also have a career development opportunity for a battalion chief, EMS battalion chief, which the final filing date will be January 31st. We're also currently recruiting lateral fire inspector 1 and 2. Final filing date coming up on the 2nd of February. Fire inspector 1. That final filing date will be February 9th. We're also recruiting a health and fitness program manager with a final filing date of February the 9th. We also have our Members of the Year 2017 selections. This is always fun to report. Engineer Dat Pham was voted as our suppression Member of the Year. Assistant Fleet Manager Tim Swank was receiving the Professional Staff Member of the Year. And then we have a new category this year that we put in for EMS category. And retired Captain Bob Bruce received the EMS Member of the Year. And in our volunteers, Reserve Firefighter Ryan Spiegelberg, hopefully I'm saying that right, he is our Volunteer Member of the Year. I just call him Ryan for that, makes it easier. Following individuals receive nominations for either Member or EMS Member of the Year and will receive peer recognition awards. And that is Administrative Specialist Michelle Dehoney, Engineer Doug Dozell, Supervising Inspector Krishana Fields, Administrative Specialist Carmen Gandera, Mechanic Matthew Moose, Firefighter Joe Schmidt, Engineer Kevin Summers, Captain Tracy Valentine, and Office Technician Cora Zielinski. So save the date for an awards gala. This will be on March 1st. More details and specifics to come out on that. We're looking forward to that one. That'll be good. Meetings, Chief's been attending to meet with, continues to meet with command staff, the day staff, and the crews, and the union reps. On January the 16th, we commenced with the IFC International Fellowship Program with our Saudi cohort. Chief Harms had opening remarks for that, and that was an exciting moment for us as well. Chief Harms also attended Mayor Steinberg's State of the City address on January the 18th. And wrapping up our most recent big days, we started on Monday, started 2 academies, our Firefighter Recruit Academy. We started that one with 18 recruits, and on same day, we also started our single role paramedic program, 18-1 Academy. We started that one with 11 recruits. And upcoming events, to wrap it up, we need to get out to fill the boot again. That will be February the 8th through February the 11th, with a special note, the chief is accepting donations on February the 10th, or actually anytime, because there is a Chiefs Challenge from 9 to 10 a.m. on Saturday morning, February 10th, and we need to regain our #1 position there. Of course, in the vein of the beneficiary, the program there, the Burn Institute. And we are looking to win that back this year. We lost it last year, so lots of donations to Cosumnes. So we want to fill the boot. So looking for Chief Harms' boot. Let's fill it. That's all I have.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
I appreciate it. The operations report, I believe you're up again, is that correct?
Yes, Chief Wagaman is actually going to
Wagaman.
present, and then Chief Randy Hine will have some final EMS-related items he'll present after Chief Wagaman.
Good evening, directors and Chief Bridge, Tyler Wagaman, Assistant Chief Operations with your operations report. It's always a challenge to fill the boots of Chief Bridge, so it will be myself and Chief Hine who will partake in the second part of this operations report. Since we last met on January 11th, Metro Fires run 3,666 calls, 4 of which were working structure fires. On the EMS side, we were dispatched on 2,896 medical aids at a transport rate of 61%. AMR ambulance was dispatched on 363 incidents at a transport rate of 57%. Before I pass the mic over to Chief Hine for some additional EMS details, I would like to add that on your upcoming meeting on February 8th, where we'll do a detailed report on the highlights of 2017, as well as get into some additional details on the 101,283 calls that Metro Fire ran in 2017. So with that, I'm going to pass the mic over to Assistant Chief Hine.
Thank you very much. Chief Hine.
And if you just give me one moment here, I have a, get our PowerPoint up here. And again, good evening for President Barnes, directors, Chief Bridge, and Assistant Chief Randall Hine, Director of EMS. This evening I have an update for you, just kind of what's been going on in the world of EMS here in Metro. So a couple of items that we'll look at is a flu update, our wall times, the Flex Medic program, and the Single Role Academy. So if we think about the influenza that's out there across the state, we're really in line with the national trend that's going on out there according to the CDC. And the flu season peaked early and is spreading quickly, and that's because people in the state are catching a particularly dangerous strain of the flu. 2 types actually, the influenza A and H3N2, which is more common in the elderly and children. The influenza A is a strain that the flu shot doesn't always protect against. So what we found is that hospitalizations are up from the last year with 58 ICU stays for the flu symptom victims compared to only 29 for last year in the same time frame. So across the state, the flu has killed 28 people younger than 65 years of age since December. That's 3 times more than it was last year, and the youngest being a 20-year-old female. The officials expect the state's death toll to climb, and the data shows that 70% of the individuals that passed away did not have the flu shot. However, 30% that did receive the flu shot also passed away. And so we can see that these strains are very strong. So still, doctors are encouraging people to get the vaccination because it will shorten the symptoms. On a side note, the influenza-related deaths among people 65 and older are not tracked, so the actual number of deaths may be greater in that age group. Since my last update, we have met with a measure of success in reducing wall times in the region, and a few of the items that we have here for our throughput that we worked with the hospitals on their intake process and the improvement strategies that they had engaged, and also the collaboration, ongoing evaluation with the local EMS authority as well has aided us in that. If we look at the wall times, we're going to look at the time frame from January 1st to this past Monday on the 22nd. And the county goal is for these APOT times or wall times is 20 minutes for a patient to be moved from a EMS gurney onto a hospital bed. The average APOT times are reflected in the graph that we see here, ranging anywhere from 11 minutes to 38 minutes, which is, again, an improvement over last year. This graph looks at the hours of the day, same time frame from January 1 to the 22nd, with the peak times being 10 in the morning till 6 in the evening, with the highest wall time being about 1 in the afternoon. If we look at the maximum wall times, these really started to peak, and for whatever reason, December 26th was that drop-dead date where these wall times really escalated. And we can see there are a few outliers here in the two columns that reflect 5 hours of high-impact days of wall time, which were January 8th through 11th. So those were the 4 days that there was really a significant jump in the wall times. Part of how we also plan to meet this call volume that we're experiencing due to the flu is that this year, again, we're going to be implementing the Flex Medic program. We've collaborated operations in a local 522 to be able to deploy 2 additional medic units from 0900 to 2100 in the evening to cover those peak times. These units are going to be staffed by captains, by engineers, and firefighters, which is going to give all of our members that may normally be on a non-transporting unit the chance to work on a transporting unit and be able to use their ALS skills in that venue. And as Chief Bridge had already mentioned, Single Role Academy started this past week, or this week. 11 members, 5 are paramedics, 6 are EMTs. They'll have 4 weeks of classroom and 2 weeks of ride-along, and the first week will be on an engine, and the second week will be on a medic unit. So that's just my update for this session. Unless you have any questions, that'd be the end of my report.
Thank you very
Yes.
much. Director Gould. Or, excuse me, it was Ally.
You can go, then I'll go.
Thank you.
I'll go,
Thank you, sir.
and then he'll go.
Perfect. We have an order.
If you want to go, then I'll go.
No, fine, we've got a plan.
Okay.
Now I forgot the question. No. I understand that there are 11 paramedics enrolled in this program?
There's 11 total, 5 are paramedics and 6 are EMTs.
Okay,
And
so there's
then
11
with
total.
some of the EMTs being at various stages of their paramedic training.
And what's the carrying capacity of that class? Could it be 22 or 30 or?
The way that we've structured the classes is typically anywhere from 12 to 15 recruits.
Okay.
And if we had the applicant pool to be able to have additional, we would of course fill that. But we've been trying to keep our instructor to student ratio at about that number, just for the impact and the value of the training that we provide.
And based on your experience, what would you expect to be the number that complete the program?
If we look back, the past 2 academies we've had, out of the approximately 30 members that have gone through, we've only lost 1 from that, from those
Oh,
academies.
nice. Last question. Looking at your trend data, number of applicants to the program, does that seem to be increasing, decreasing, staying the same?
What we found is that for the EMTs that apply is typically a high number, sometimes in the 200s. Whereas on the paramedic side, we're typically below 100 in the applicants that we receive.
So in this class, there would have been originally 300 applicants that got winnowed down to this, is that?
Correct. And this is an active list, and so we would, of course, take the individuals that would have scored the highest on those lists,
Right.
and then we sunset a list after a certain point. And so all those members would be taken from those existing lists.
So if I'm on that list and I get sunsetted, and believe me, there's an excellent chance that would happen, is there another opportunity for me, or can I apply again?
Yes, you can. For both EMT and paramedic, we have a continuous application process because we are doing 4 academies a year. And so we keep a constant list and a constant pool of applicants that will take as many that apply, to be able to get on that list.
Just to put you on the spot because I'm really obviously interested in the topic, if there was one thing that you think we could do to strengthen our applicant pool, any idea what that might be?
The one thing that, in concert with the Recruitment and Retention Committee, the EMS division has been doing is going out to local junior colleges that have EMT and paramedic programs each semester and being able to reach out to those individuals. And matter of fact, in the Single Role Academy that started this week, we have 2 individuals that were in those sessions when we went out to actually do the recruiting. And so that isn't one of the elements that we've been doing. And in concert with the Recruitment and Retention Committee, they've been hitting other venues to get those individuals to apply for the position.
Great, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Director Rosali. We would have let you go first, Director Gould, if you didn't know that.
Thanks, appreciate that. Chief
Director Gould,
Linebacker,
go
thanks
ahead.
for that report on these issues. I want to go back to the run report that we received relative to the call volume. And I was concerned simply because of the ratio of transports to total calls. Year over year, are we tracking pretty similar to what we did in 17 or 16 relative to this band of months where we see a dip? I heard we were down in the 60s, where obviously in other times we're in the 70s for our EMS calls. Do you have a sense of what's tracking that? Because that's a pretty significant, I think sometimes we're in 71, 72, and all of a sudden in a reporting period, we've dropped pretty significantly. You have an idea why?
As we look at that data, just for the current numbers, and Chief Wagman was kind enough to supply those for me that he had done his research, that on the Metro side, we're at 61%, and then on
Right.
the AMR side, we're at 57%. What we're finding is that overall, sometimes while that is somewhat lower than normal, that we typically are in that low 70 percentage. That at this point, a lot of times we will get dispatched to an incident, and then we will get canceled. So that's part of that component. The other part, not really sure.
Okay.
And
Well,
so
I'm just
it'd
wondering
be a
if-
matter of being able to track those trends a
Right.
little bit closer.
I'm just wondering if we're tracking the reasons. I hear what, code for en route, and also I get all of that. I'm just wondering if something has been placed into the system that's driving that number. It's not a bad thing that number sometimes is going down for the benefit of our crews, but I'm just wondering, if there's something that's going on, all of a sudden we're in the low 60s where we've been in the low 70s. That's a 10% decrease in transport volume, which obviously is good in some ways and has some challenges in other ways. So I wonder if down the road we might start to sense of, okay, of that 10% drop, 90% of it was X. We got canceled en route. Okay, and that might be a function of dispatch. But anyway, so I'm just curious about that number because we hear it every 2 weeks, and I watch it pretty closely, and all of a sudden this one, it seems to be significantly different in my mind, so.
Yes, and I'd be happy to mine a little bit deeper into
Yeah, I
those
think if-
numbers
yeah.
to provide that information for you.
I appreciate it. Thank you, Chief.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Director Gould. Anyone else?
I've got a question.
Sir.
What would be the desirable ratio? What's the driver, what's the premise on that?
What the formula we use for our workload or time on task is called a unit hour utilization. And when we look at that, the industry standard is 40%. So out of a given shift, that typically individuals, the workload that is a balanced workload is right at that 40 to 45% range. And anything above that, it's been found that the fatigue factor sets in for our crews.
Yeah, Pythons, yeah, okay, good math.
Thank you. The only question I have, Chief Hine, is the stats that you showed in here about wall time. Is that shared with the hospitals? If they have that high time of wall time, are we able to go to the hospitals and say either if there's a trend that either it's more staffing that they can help? I'm just curious if that's
Yes,
shared.
they are very open to dialogue, and every 2 months, we have a meeting that all the EMS providers, both public and private, and all the hospitals are represented, and where we have this dialogue. And the county's been very diligent about sharing the information they're collecting from us to share with all the providers in the area, including hospitals. So they are very aware of what their numbers are. And we're hoping maybe a little bit of competition is going to help the system as they work towards lowering those wall times.
Great, thank you very much, I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Nothing else, thank you very much for the report. Okay. What am I at here? Okay, sorry, firefighters local 522, Trevor Jameson, thank you, sir, for being here.
Good evening, directors, Chief Bridge, Trevor Jameson, Local 522 Metro Vice President. Great to be here. Great to see you guys tonight. Just not much to tell you, but I always want to get out here and represent the membership. A couple of things I did get to address. I think I mentioned the Saudi firefighters last time I was here, but I did get to address them. It was quite an honor to be there with the chief and the IFC. Our membership is training. They took them to the burn props today and trained them. Our membership has really stepped up. It's amazing to see what a motivated membership will do, and it's a pleasure to represent them and let you know that they're out there training with them every day. They're out there being the best they can be. We had some opportunities recently to go out and train in Davis, and it's not something you get to do very often, that get buildings that are realistic to go train on. And our membership has been clamoring for those opportunities, and to see when they got the opportunities to go down there and actually really do the job of tearing those buildings apart to learn is pretty impressive. Other departments had the opportunity and did not take it, so it's good to know that our membership will go out and do that. On the EMS side of things, EMS was always be a challenge for us. I think I've been speaking about that, and you see what we have. It's more and more, and we're talking about it. Coming forward, there's meetings scheduled. EMS 2020 is something that Chief Harms had started. It's going to be continuing this year. It is going to be a huge challenge going forward. Staffing, we are short-staffed. We have flex medics coming back May 1st. So running the amount of calls we have to run with the lack of personnel is a challenge for our membership, but they are stepping up and meeting it and sitting on the wall and doing it with a smile on their face. So you guys, you can be proud as a board that your membership that you is out doing that. Other than that, unless you have any questions for me, that's all I got for you tonight.
All right, thank you very much. Director Gould.
Can you give us an update, whatever you can, on the firefighter that was injured from his fall?
I can. He had his second surgery.
Okay.
He is all bandaged up. So he's not going to be risking infections like he was previously. He's got 2 full leg casts, and he's moving around in a wheelchair in his relatively small house, but he's doing great. I visited with him. My wife and I visited with him shortly after our last board meeting. I've been in contact with him. Come February, a policy will be brought to you that we're hoping to help members who have situations like that. So he's doing great. Thank you for asking.
Will you offer him our best
I will.
when you see him?
Thank you.
Thanks for that update. Thank you,
Thank
Mr.
you,
Chair.
Thank you, and thank you, Director Gould. I appreciate that. I appreciate when you talk about real-life scenario training, there's nothing better than that, right? That's as close as you can get to the actual real thing. So you can tabletop as much, but getting out there and cutting buildings open and doing what you do. So I appreciate you and the membership of taking advantage of that. So thank you for letting us know about that.
Thank you.
Thank you, appreciate it. Moving on to committee and delegate reports. Executive Committee, we do not have any report out tonight. Next meeting will be to be determined. Communications Center, JPA, Chief Johnson.
Good evening, Directors, Chief Bridge, Mo Johnson, Assistant Chief, Community Risk Reduction Unit. I do have an update for you today. We met earlier today and we approved 2 contracts for our interim executive team, who I'm happy to announce has hit the ground running and they're doing an outstanding job over there. We received and approved our first CAFR report. That's the only time it's ever been done in the Comm Center. And I also wanted to give a very happy and welcome thanks to Ron Empedrad and the entire finance division as they assisted the finance team over at the JPA in getting that done. So thank you very much. The JPA also received a clean audit, and we're always happy to hear that news. And then lastly, I've got some just some stats from 2017 from their report that they just released. In 2017, there was 400,000 phone calls in or out of the comm center. 68% of those 911 calls were cell phone users. 195,000 incidents were processed from those 400,000 calls, and 182 life saves specific to the EMD process that they use, not out in the field, but simply the phone instructions that they're giving the callers that are coming in. Lastly, I'd like to remind you and welcome you to visit the comm center, sit down, listen to the radio and some of the phone calls, and visit with our staff out there. Not only are they dispatching our units to the calls, but they truly, truly, truly care about our firefighters, our men and women out in the streets every single day. So when we have those tough calls that are happening out there, they have those same types of concerns and they go through the same things because they're listening to that raw phone call before it's dispatched to our folks. Do you have any questions? End of my report.
I have a question. I was by there yesterday, I believe, and how do you get into the comm center? I had a tour of the mechanics there, some appears, fantastic operation there, but the comm center, it was locked, and I pushed the buzzer and nothing happened.
Okay, so the comm center is a very secure building, and that's by design.
That top safe clears.
If you go to the front door and you can kind of take a look through there, if you ever have an issue, you're more than welcome to call the non-emergency number. There's always somebody there to answer that. But if you push the button there and you talk through the door, they'll be more than welcome to let you in.
I talked to the door and nothing's happened.
Okay. I can't speak specific to that case, but that's typically how it works.
Because the gentleman somebody was coming through repair and he saw me there.
Okay.
And I went through the mechanics part of it. Tomato shop there.
Gotcha.
And,
That might be a different building?
This was on McClellan.
No, sir. This is on Systems Parkway right down the street.
Okay, it says communication center there.
Yes, that's the fire and EMS dispatch communication center
Okay,
right
there's
down the
another
street.
one.
Yes, sir.
What's the address of the?
I can get the address to you. It's on Systems Parkway, just about a mile and a half from us here.
Okay, yeah, I was out there yesterday. I couldn't get it. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Moving on to California Fire Rescue JPA, Director Kelly.
Yes, Director Shannon attends the meetings now, and he is not with us tonight, so he left a report for me. There are 5 bullet items, I'll tell you. They're all very interesting, and the JPA is doing fine.
Very good. Thank you very much, sir.
Did I say Director Shannon? Yes. Chief Shannon, excuse me.
We can give him different titles. It's okay. He's not here to defend himself.
Doesn't want this job.
All right, Finance and Audit Committee, Director Kelly.
Finance and Audit Committee met earlier this evening. We heard about CalPERS annual evaluations, and then we received a report from Amanda Thomas, and we will elect officers of that, or not officers, but yeah, I guess officers of that committee at a later date when all parties are there to represent themselves.
Very good. Thank you very much. Policy Committee, Director Gould.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The Policy Committee will join ranks and most likely talk about policies on February 8th at 5:30.
Thank you, Director Gould. Before moving into closed sessions, we're going to go ahead and go board member questions and comments. Starting on the far left, Director Kelly.
I have no comments, but I did notice something this evening. I heard that our controller was helping the comm center. So just goes to show you, not only the people in the field helping other individuals, but I think it's wonderful that we are throwing in and helping along with everything that we had to do preparing for our audit. We're helping, another agency that's related to us with theirs. And so good work, Finance and Audit Division.
Thank you, Director Kelly. Director Clark?
I have no comment tonight, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Director Rosali, sorry, we'll come back to you.
Thank you. Just briefly, I had the opportunity to meet this week with representatives of 522, and I genuinely appreciated the attitude of collaboration, the new spirit of looking for solutions that also represent not only administration and labor, but also the community. It was a great meeting, and I truly appreciated it. Also, Ms. Thomas, I want to commend you on this report. It's excellent work, and I genuinely appreciate it.
Thank you, Director Rosali. Director Gould?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just two things. I wish the audit folks could use better words than good and clean, like excellent, outstanding, second to none, damn, whatever. Simply because I think that really is the benchmark that our folks are meeting. But I understand it's, boring, and so whatever. The second thing is I just simply, as a representative of the citizens of my district, just want to say thank you to every single human being that works for this organization in whatever role it is, because we couldn't do it without the entire team. And I think that's really exemplified by everything that we hear every time we gather of all the fantastic things that are going on. And I just want to say thank you to every single person that works for this organization and makes our job so easy, representing such a fine, outstanding organization. And thank you from the bottom of my heart.
Well said. Thank you, Director Gould. Director Gale?
I am a bit late, and I went on the audit report here, Richardson and Company, and things kind of remind me of can't think of the city in Southern California. I can't think of a little one. What is the purpose of an audit? I was a math person, not an accountant. What do we look for on an audit? I was recently reading this Richardson and Company. Maybe there wasn't the bag of materials where they sampled people of what it made questions. As they say, everything was good, according to what? What did we look for in an audit?
Well, Director Gale,
Financial audit, do we look at everything or what? Or do we, a simple sample or what? How do we do that?
well, if I may answer
So
that.
Richardson and Company, I didn't see any backup, and I've done many of them in my life. This didn't tell me anything.
Will you allow me to answer, Director Gale?
I would like to see the person we had a contract with, Richardson and Company. They should have the backup package as to why they did the sampling, who they questioned,
Okay.
ones that I've dealt with in the past.
Okay, Director Gale, they presented a report. It is industry standard on what they do and their findings. If that is something that you wish, we can work with Board Clerk of reaching out to Richardson, and you can ask the questions at that time.
You know, what I think it goes with the territory. When you do a audit, I can't think of the town, Southern California, it was all out of order. They never had any audit. That was meaningful. What's the name of this?
Bell.
Bell, yeah, Bell. We could get the same kind of Bell if we don't ask the right question. How did that happen?
I think it's
And everything, I'm quite sure they said audit, but I think it should, we look at our organization, things that are doing great, and we know what the factors that make that. Then we get an order to bless it. But that's all I got, maybe I missed something, Mr. President.
Well, as you,
Yeah, I read that too, but what did you cover, everything, or do you just cover just something? The financial part, individual agent, that spent where we put things were. We know how you have to do for an accountant. You do a great job. you know, so I question,
Well, thank you for your,
give me much.
well, thank you for your comments and questions, but every board member was presented with the packet prior to this meeting, which.
I read the
allowed-
packet,
Very
but
good.
it
And you had
still didn't
opportunity
show
to reach out
anything.
and ask those questions prior to the meeting, so thank you for your comments and questions.
Well,
I
no, it
appreciate
didn't
you.
show anything from there, was nothing there. Not really.
Okay. Well, I disagree.
I've done a lot of them.
I disagree. I think it was very comprehensive. I think the audit was well done. Again,
Maybe you have
first-class
something I don't
organizations.
have. I'll show you one of the great ones from Sacramento Suburban Water District, and you'll see a great audit.
Very good. Thank you, sir. Director Sheets.
I just wanted to congratulate the members of the year and all the recipients. Look forward to 2018. I am excited to go to that awards gala on March 1st. And I just want to wish good luck to both academies for the single roles and the dual role medics for their academy. That's it.
Thank you very much. And for me, just a couple things. Thank you for everybody, the reports that report out of the Finance Committee, the Audit Committee, the actual audit that comes out. I appreciate everything. It is transparent. So thank you for all the work, everybody behind the scenes that makes this operation work. Chief Johnson, you talked about, it's not only the members in the field making the saves, the phone saves. I have direct knowledge of a certain one, and we'll talk afterwards, where the phone operator assisted local law enforcement on a brand-new delivered baby, and if it was those instructions that saved that baby's life. And the officers told me they were kind of at a loss at what to do. So I have a hard time admitting that, but the reality is it was well done, but it was the instructions that happened, and a quick action saved a baby's life and changed a family's life forever. So we'll talk about that, because I would love to commend that person who was on the other end of that phone. Thank you. Something near and dear to my heart, as you know, coming up this Saturday is the Pig Bowl Guns and Hoses football game, 44th annual. We have a lot of great things going on. Fire is well represented. The charities that benefit of the Firefighter Bird Institute, I thank Local 522 by getting behind the football team, most importantly, Chief Harms and this district, to support the members that are actually playing in that game. Feel free to come out. Gates open at 11. They have a kids' safety fair from 11 to 12:30. West Sac has brought in a rig that's going to be a stop, drop, and roll. There will be something on cyberbullying, face painting, everything for the kids in bounce houses, and, of course, a great competitive game. We are paying tribute to fallen law enforcement officers and firefighters locally, and also the CAL FIRE Corey Iverson, who perished in the Thomas fire. Sac City Airport firefighter Tim Anderson, we're paying tribute to him, and the one who's still battling cancer from Auburn Fire, who was a fire dog player for 10 years. He's in stage 4 cancer, and we are all pulling for him to make it. He's a fighter, and there's no doubt that he'll come out successful. So I encourage everybody to come out to the game. It's going to be well attended. As you can see, people are worried about rain. Look, we are good. So thank you for everyone that does come out, and thank you everyone externally and internally who do support the game and the mission. So thank you for that. With that being said, we are going to adjourn and go into closed session. No offense, but hopefully we do not see people in the audience when we come back. Thank you. Thank you very much. We'll call the public session or public meeting back to order. Report out from legal counsel.
Thank you, Director Barnes. The board met in closed session to consider the 3 governmental tort claims identified in the closed session agenda. The board voted unanimously to reject those claims under the provisions of the government code.
Thank you very much. That'll conclude the meeting. Our next board meeting will be February 8, 2018 at 6 p.m. here at Metro Fire Headquarters. Thank you very much. Have a great weekend.